and we are live with you here on a Sunday morning. Tim Wood, Bill Bryant, Hector Longo, Week 6 of MVC Gridiron Weekly, presented by Davila and DeFusco Insurance. How are you, gentlemen?
Great this morning.
So,
on this lovely Sunday morning.
it was a week of blowouts. This was a week typically where you've got some rivalry games, but a week this year where whether you're talking about injuries, whether you're talking about just teams headed in different directions, we had 6 blowouts this week, which was really an anomaly for this time of year, guys.
Yeah, the power teams, Tim, are kind of sniffing the finish line here, and they took care of business. Maybe ratcheting things up with the playoffs, 2 weeks away, basically, and they took care of business this week. The teams you expected to do it did it with authority, starting off, and it was an interesting week in that account where it was kind of a separating week where you said, okay, this team is ready. This team, look what the strides this team has made. Amazing. This team has finally put it together. In several different cases, they look ready to go.
Hector, just to follow up on that, is this, typically, would we be seeing this separation week before this? Or just over your careers, is this right about the time where we really start to see the true separation?
Well, I think we had a scenario this week where there were some definite gaps. Methuen not having its quarterback, going into a central homecoming. That's a recipe for, something like that. But yeah, I just think that at this point of the year, the kids know, especially in teams that are in the playoffs year in, year out, Tewksbury, and doing things year in, year out in the postseason, they know when things amp up. North Andover has been a strong team the last few years. Those kids know. They sniff the postseason. They teams are looking to lock down places in seedings. Teams looking to lock down league titles, and it gets serious now. Teams put their mind to business, and the teams that aren't winning tend to fade a little bit here. It's just the nature of the beast in football. It's a tough time to coach the next 4 weeks if you're not a playoff team or you're not a power team. It just is.
Now, out of those games from yesterday, obviously, I'm hoping for a different outcome for Methuen, and as we're going to hear from the coach later, it was 3-0 after the first quarter, 10-0 going in deep into the second quarter, pick 6, 17-0. The whole landscape of the game changed. I'm going to be honest. Yesterday, the Lawrence Lowell game was the one that I was really hoping for a better game. Lawrence coming off a big win against Haverhill. I wasn't expecting. That type of a score, to be honest. The other scores, Malden Catholic, I saw them earlier in the year. I see that. Tewksbury against Chelmsford. You're talking about two different teams here. Tewksbury is hitting their stride, but they're also addressing injuries too. It just shows they're small, but their depth, man, and their ability for their athletes to pick it up and jump in any position. Andover beating Haverhill. Andover, Hector, you said it. Andover figures out how to play defense, and you better watch out. Well, 42-7, man. They're not letting up as many points as they were early in the year, but the Lawrence Lowell game is the one that shocked me and kind of bummed me out a little bit.
Honestly, Lawrence has been so Jekyll and Hyde for so long, and man, I can remember the early years, 20-something years ago, seeing that our Lawrence kids expecting a big night and not getting it. It's just part of the scenario that's been there. That was, obviously, Brendan Ty is a marquee player, so he's going to be tough to handle for a lot of teams, but Lawrence didn't handle Lowell, and things kind of spiraled there. I think if you read Randy's quotes from the game, he was disappointed too, that they were on a nice little high, and maybe that was a bad thing for that to happen for them, for that to happen, that they to win a game and have some success right before a game that, like you say, Bill, you thought was going to be a pretty good football game.
And I've become biased, to be honest with you, Tim. Hector, I don't know if you saw it, but after our show last week, the coach, he reached out to us, and we ended up doing a video with him, and man, he is infectious.
Yeah.
You know, I obviously I grew up in Lawrence, played high school football there, and graduated from Lawrence High, but you know, Yamin has done a really good job for a long time, and obviously they parted ways, and now he's in North Andover. But talking to coach, the new Lawrence High coach, I know it's his second year. Man, is he infectious, and I found myself really rooting for them, and that's why, like I said, I was so disappointed to see that big of a letdown.
Yeah, I mean, you add in whether between the coach and then you know the Vinny Schmidt you know, love of last week. I mean, Lowell shut down Schmidt. I mean, Schmidt was in negative yards for the day. So yeah, that was definitely a surprising result. You know, let's talk a little bit in terms of Methuen. Now, you know, not a fun topic, I know, Bill, but you know, right now with that loss yesterday, they're in the fifth spot now in Division I North. No home playoff game. I mean, it looks like they'll get a playoff game. It does. I mean, just doing the math, I don't see how they could fall out of the playoff picture. But how does Coach Ryan? How do they get right now? They're trying to find the mix on offense. They had J.P. Munoz in there yesterday as quarterback. Saw some good things out of him, but 3 picks not good. But I mean, how do they recover at this point?
Tim, I'll be honest. You know, no matter what I say right now, I sound like a big hose bag here. But you know, one of the things that Connor was bringing to the tables was first downs. And I think, you know, anybody can throw a big play and have a big run, but it's the consistency. And I think the thing that was helping Methuen in the beginning of the year were the long drives. We're getting the ball down the field, eating up the clock, you know, scoring the touchdown, and then allow the defense to rest. Right now, you got multiple kids. You know, I'll say this. Kareem Coleman has been an athlete for multiple years. His stock for me has shot up tenfold because the kid's playing both ways. He's gutting it out. He's running the ball. He's playing scat back quarterback. You know, almost 100 yards yesterday. I don't think they have enough right now. I'm nervous about this weekend with Lawrence. You know what I mean? They just haven't found that groove. And you know, as much as, you know, you're prepared for this, you're not. And I think that's going to be it's going to be a tough week of practice, and they got to keep these kids focused on, you know, hey, this is your next guy up. You know, we see other kids from other towns getting injured as well, and people are stepping up, and it's about mental maturity and growth and a mindset that, hey, if I'm the next guy up, I got to perform. You know, we'll talk to Peter later, you know, from North Andover. Kid's a senior, never started a game before in varsity, and he's got 2 wins under his belt. So no excuses at the end of the day, but it's not an easy thing to overcome.
I mean, and not for nothing, guys. This Methuen-Lawrence game, Lawrence, again, I've got the graphic up on the screen now. Lawrence is even with just 1 win, Lawrence is in the 9 spot right now in Division I North, and given Methuen's points, a win over Methuen is likely going to put them in the 8th spot over Lexington, no matter what Lexington does next week. So, I mean, this is a playoff game for Lawrence coming into this.
Tim, give us a scout on J.P. Munoz. Where did he come from? And
I could do that. He's been a kid that's been, you know, a youth football player. He's a tough athlete. I think he's got a little bit of a stronger arm than Ganji at times. Accuracy, I think they kind of split that. I think the difference maker that I was hoping to see out of him was just a little bit of a more north to south running, where Ganji can definitely roll out and scramble a little bit better and get your yards. Where I was looking at Yunez, JP, as a kid who can run that option run. And he's a little bit, I don't want to say tougher than Ganji, that's not the right word, but he can break a little bit more tackles than Ganji did. So they were splitting some time yesterday, which I think is hard that both, you know, Nunez got in the week before, first play, threw a pick in Andover, which stinks on any level. I don't know if I would have had him throw a pass his first game. But the receivers for Methuen, good passing, but Coleman made like a 50-yard up over Ciccarelli catch. Another kid that I'll be honest, I don't even know who it is, made an incredible diving catch for Methuen. So some of the high yardage were some big, long pass plays.
Figueroa, is that what you're talking about?
Figueroa, yeah. I don't even really know who that kid is, to be honest with you. So, that's where you start to see kids step up and get some experience, and you hope you can put something together over the next couple of weeks to get a little spark going.
And I thought with Figueroa, I thought maybe those two had a connection on the JV team. That's why he was getting some spots there, and he made a big play. So I mean, Munoz had some yardage yesterday, which so they got
these guys
chunks.
all sophomores?
Figueroa is, JP is, like I said, Ganji's a junior. So he was, just experience-wise and I think just understanding the playbook. They weren't doing the on the line calls yesterday, so Methuen's definitely changing up a ton of their offense and just their ability to keep the game flowing and keep defenses off balance. It wasn't part of yesterday's game. They had to huddle up. They had to call plays. There was a lot more in-the-moment coaching, what it appered to me on the sideline for JP.
I think the other big moment there yesterday was just this weekend was North Andover over Drake. We'll talk about that next. We'll start with North Andover Drake. We've got we're lucky to have the quarterback for North Andover on with us this week. The first player to do a video interview with us and hopefully start a trend there. Peter Radulski. We'll talk to him. We'll break down all the games. And the one thing I wanted to just throw out to you guys, as we mentioned earlier, we'll put the nominations up on the screen. We've already got a good jump on the voting here. You got Scott Brown from Andover, had a freshman quarterback, had another huge game for Andover in their win over Haverhill. Kevin Higgins, as we mentioned before, a big game for Central Catholic. And we'll have Coach Chuck Adamopoulos, who will talk a little bit about him and just different guys stepping into big roles for Central as they get ready for their playoff push. Kyler Keogh from Tewksbury. He is another guy who had who stepped up in the absence of Shane Aylward, who's still nursing that shoulder injury. Tyler Keogh had a big game for the Redmen, and then the one return nominee here, Brian Hamilton from Billerica. He had a big game against Malden Catholic, 143 yards, 2 touchdown runs. So there are your nominees. Get online on Twitter at MVC Gridiron Week. And we will we'll see how that plays out. Again, the fan vote, 25% of the vote. You guys were in agreement with the fan vote last week in terms of Mr. Schmidt. So Vinny Schmidt was our winner last week, and we'll see how things play out this week, gentlemen. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back after the break, and we will talk North Andover Drake, and we will. We'll talk to the quarterback from North Andover, Peter Radulski. We'll do that right after the break here on MVC Gridiron Weekly, presented by Davila and DeFusco Insurance. It's a dream to own your own business, and Val and Susan Davila made that a reality in February 2013. They started with just 2 insurance carriers, but now Right in Place Insurance for Progressive, Safeco, Pilgrim, Plymouth Rock, and MAPFRE, just to name a few. Need auto insurance, renters, commercial, or home? I just asked Val and his crew to find me a better auto and home insurance deal, and he connected me with Plymouth Rock, where I'm saving more than 40% over my previous insurance. Now, your results may vary, but give Davila and DeFusco a try. They pride themselves on having lifelong roots in the Merrimack Valley. Put their experience to work for you. Visit them at 225 Broadway or call 978-241-7950 for a free quote, or check them out at daviladefusco.com. Big shout out to the folks at AFC Urgent Care, Lisa Williams and her team over there. AFC Urgent Care, the right care right now. You'll never need an appointment. Got that persistent cough and cold, that cut that needs a few stitching, or need a sports physical and don't want to wait weeks to get into your primary doctor? AFC's streamlined approach helps you be seen quickly and feel better fast. In Methuen, in the Merrimack Street Medical Professionals Building, 380R Merrimack Street, in North Andover as well, in the Burton Grill Plaza, 8 to 8 Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 Saturday and Sunday. Go to afcurgentcare.com for more details. Back here on MVC Gridiron Weekly, Tim Wood, Bill Bryant, Hector Longo, and you here on a Sunday morning. Much thanks to the folks at Davila and DeFusco Insurance for making the show possible, as well as our other sponsors, AFC Urgent Care, Jen Hamilton, the Realtor. Huge thank you for your sponsorship of the show. So let's talk North Andover. A huge win. Once again, second in a row now for North Andover, and a surprise again. Another one of those surprising outcomes: 41-14 over Drake. Guys, they held the Middies to 172 total yards, but really, if it was under 100 if you factor in that 79 of those were on the last drive against backups. Peter Radulski, 8 for 13, 153 passing yards, 2 touchdown passes. Freddie Gavin, 18 rushes, 101 yards, 2 TD runs. Ricky Brutus, 11 rushes, 58 yards, 2 TD runs. Max Wolfgang, 3 catches, 73 yards, an 11-yard TD catch. Matt Chico, 3 catches, 60 yards, and a 37-yard touchdown catch for the Knights. Lucas Abarguin, one of our MVP candidates for earlier in the season, coming back from injury. He had a nice day, 10 carries, 95 yards for the Middies in the loss. But guys, this was all North Andover.
I can't figure Drake it out.
Yeah.
They have talent, they have size, they have speed. They're the team that confuses me the most. Go ahead, Hector.
If I would say one thing, I would have said that Peter Radulski, and I know you guys are going to speak to him in a bit, might be the great story of this season. If you look at different storylines that have come up through the league this year, he's got to be a nominee for top story of the year. Coming in October, senior backup, stepping in and doing this and leading his team to victories into the playoffs. It's great to see. It's one of the great stories of the fall. Very interesting stuff. Just very excited about that. And the other thing I might say, Bill, is maybe we're seeing that there is a little bit of a separation here between the haves and not so haves. In that case, maybe North Andover was just better than we thought.
I mean, and we just thought from what we saw earlier in the season that Drake maybe was in the haves, but
yeah.
you got two teams going in the wrong in different, like polar opposite directions right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and no matter how I say this isn't a slight on the Drake coaching staff. I don't know them very well. I'm much more familiar with North Andover and their depth of coaching and their experience, number of years of assistant coaches that have been head coaches. They seem like they're almost re-establishing who they are throughout the season. And the interview was taped a little bit earlier, and you're right, Peter's a great kid, and God, I'm going to agree with you, Hector. I do find he's someone that is, is handling all of this really well, but also performing really well, which it's easy. You get an opportunity, it doesn't mean you're going to perform. But I think the North Andover coaches seem like they're retooling their talent and putting them in different positions to make a better team here for the run for the playoffs.
Well, you mentioned the interview, Bill. Let's get right into it. We've got Peter Radulski, as Hector mentioned, really one of the great stories of this fall, and you'll hear a little bit more right from him in terms of how he's handled this newfound spotlight. So let's bring in Peter Radulski from North Andover. Thrilled to have here on MVC Gridiron Weekly. We've got the quarterback from the North Andover Scarlet Knights, Peter Radulski. Peter, Tim Wood, Bill Bryant here. How are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic. We're excited to have you here. You're making history. We had two coaches last week on Skype. You are the first player that has that has submitted to actually being on video on a Sunday morning. So you're making history all over the place these days.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here.
So tell us just about. I mean, you've had an interesting career. For those who are not initiated into the Peter Radulski story, tell us just about how you got to this point in terms of starting these last couple games.
Well, in terms of my high school career, I haven't played a single varsity, or I haven't started a single varsity game until this year. So like sophomore and junior year, I was on JV, and actually my sophomore year I ended up breaking my elbow, so that cut my season short. But last year, as the JV quarterback, I got a lot of time through on the varsity games. I got a lot of time through when our team was up big, because we had a very good team last year, and so a lot of the games were blowouts. And so at the end of the game, I was able to get a little experience. But until 2 weeks ago, I've never started a varsity game. So 2 weeks ago was my first varsity start against Chelmsford.
Wow!
So here we are, no varsity start. Chelmsford, your first snap, your first series. What's going on in your head, and how are you managing that huddle?
I just wanted to make sure everyone was ready to go and fired up, because I didn't want to come out slow. I wanted to knock Chelmsford back right off the bat. And the first drive of the game, it was a good drive. We went right down the field and scored a touchdown, so it was good.
Fantastic.
Peter, in terms of just stepping into this role, what has it been like for you to step into this role and in the middle of the MVC gauntlet?
Well, this is a great division. There's a lot of tough teams, and definitely it's been a little nerve-wracking, like having to watch all that film and go up against these great teams. But I know that if all my teammates and if we play our best, I know that our team can go as far as we want to go, and so it's really reassuring that we're able to play so well when we play together.
Talk a little bit about coming in, like Tim just said. It's the middle of the season. You've started now 2 games. You know, as a dad whose son plays quarterback and is injured and is out right now, it's tough. There's a lot of stress to that. As the young man or senior that's coming in and replacing, how's that relationship between you and the injured QB?
Well, I love him, and he's a great person, and we're definitely great friends, and he's a great help to me. At practice, he's there every day. And we have two different styles of play, I think. And so I definitely think we learn a lot from each other, practicing together and playing together. And sometimes we hang out outside of school. We're great friends. It's a great relationship.
Peter, in terms of just what you've learned, and we're talking to Peter Radulski here on MVC Gridiron Weekly, from the North Andover Scarlet Knights, the quarterback, 2-0 is a starting quarterback now for the Knights. Peter, what is as you've watched from the sidelines, as you've played in the JV games, what have you learned watching the games that made you better going into this situation?
I definitely think, not to go back to last year, because I hate talking about the state championship, but last year watching Jake McElroy, who is one of the best high school quarterbacks I've ever seen, I think watching him play the game helped a lot, because learning under him was a huge help, because he's one of the best high school quarterbacks I've ever seen, and definitely watching him and playing with him was a great help, because he's a very mature and he was a very sound quarterback. He was good at everything he did.
So I got to ask, what does that mean by you hate talking about the state championship? Is it nuisance to talk about being the best team in the state?
No, I just don't want to go back on the old things when we're right now in this season. We have to focus on where we are, because after this week we have playoffs, and we got to focus on where we are right now.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Drake. What were some of the challenges going into the game this week? and obviously you guys have a balanced attack. You had a great day passing the ball, and obviously with Gavin and Brutus and the other running backs, you guys have a solid air and ground attack. What did Drake offer that was a challenge?
Well, Drake, it's a really tough team. They hit hard and they're very sound tacklers, but this week we put in the I formation, and we hadn't run that all year. So I think in the beginning of the game that helped a lot, running the ball, and then as they adjusted to that, we spread them out a little bit, and so I think that helped a lot too, to have a lot of different formations to throw at them in the running game, so they weren't really ready for that. And then in the passing game, definitely in film we saw some things like mismatches with some of our receivers, and we have great receivers like Matt Chico, Max Wolfgang. They're great receivers. Matt's super fast. Max is a huge target, and they make it real easy on me. All I got to do is put the ball in their general vicinity, and they'll catch it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some of the highlights from the game playing as we're talking here. In terms of just what you saw from Drake, you guys are kind of, I wouldn't say you're heading in different directions right now, but I mean it's how much was that, as much as you don't want to talk about last year, how much is collectively as a team having that experience of all of those pressure situations, how much is it coming into play for you in kind of toning down the nerves as you head into these games?
Well, for me, I didn't really get to play in any of those big games last year, so it didn't really help with my nerves. I still have plenty of nerves, but I'm sure a lot of the guys on the line. I know we have two returning linemen, Jack Roach and Tim Ianro. They both played in the Super Bowl and started in the Super Bowl. And there's a bunch of Freddie Gavin. Obviously, he played the whole season last year. All of them, I'm sure it helps with their nerves that they've been to all those big games and everything. But I can't speak on that. I still have plenty of nerves.
So just talk a little bit about, your first start, Chelmsford, to Drake it. What was some growth and some things that you found yourself doing much better in Drake it, having a full game under your belt and having another whole week of practice? Talk a little bit about your own growth and where you're feeling much more confident now going into your next game as well.
I definitely think I learned a lot from the way I prepared for the Chelmsford game, because I was able to be a lot more calm and less nervous for the Drake it game. And during the Chelmsford game, I think it gave me a lot of confidence in the sense that we were able to pull out a close win, because having not played a full game with all the guys on the team this year, it helps to build that chemistry once you get a good win like that. That was crazy when they all stopped them at the goal line in that Chelmsford game, because that helps build a lot of team chemistry, and I think going into Drake it helps boost the confidence a little bit.
Yeah, what an insane ending to that game, and then as like you said, as good as you played, and as much as you got the nerves out to win in that way, that's got to just be the ultimate chemistry builder to have that kind of moment. Tell us just in terms of you personally and what it's been like stepping in this late in the season and where you've kind of taken your learning moments from in stepping into this role.
I definitely think that I've always tried to be prepared for any situation. In the beginning of the season, I just wanted to play football, so I was playing defensive end, and I had a couple sacks actually, which was big, but I just wanted to play football, and so I was telling myself, no matter where I end up, I just want to be prepared to be ready for wherever the coach needs me, and I definitely think that every day I would try and learn as much as I could about the offense, so if I ever got my chance, I'd be ready. And I think it's helped a lot that I've studied so much to be ready to know the offense when I go in there.
So how are things a little bit differently in school when you're a defensive end or a backup? You know, you have one sort of strut down the hallway when you're the starting quarterback and you're 2-0.
Yeah.
You're 2-0 going into your next game. How is it a little bit different for you walking down the hallway?
Well, it's definitely a lot different because all my teachers come up to me now and congratulate me, and they all say that they didn't even know that I played quarterback because they said when they go to the games they saw me go in on pass rushing situations on defense, and so that they thought that's all I did because I was used as like the speed defensive end, and so basically all my teachers thought that was my job, and special teams too. I am on the special teams, so they thought it was just that was it. But I was like, no, I play quarterback too. So they're all surprised and they love it. It's a great feeling.
Peter, you talk about wanting to play football. Just tell us how. So you were behind McElroy. Now you go in and you're behind Will to start the season. Where does that patience come? I mean, we've seen a lot of situations where players will either stop playing or transfer somewhere else, or where does that patience come from? And in terms of waiting for your spot.
It can definitely get pretty frustrating waiting for your spot, especially your senior season. And so I think I just have to thank all the people that helped me get here, because talking to all of them, just like my dad, some of my teachers at school, my trainer who I train with outside of the season, all of them have just really helped me stay patient because they all knew that my time would come. And my coaches too, they encouraged me all the time, and I think they all just helped me really stay patient and told me that one day good things will happen.
In terms of what's next for you outside of football as you head down the twilight of your high school career here? What are you looking at? Are you looking at colleges? Are you have any careers in mind yet?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of college stress right now. So lots of essays, applications, all that stuff. I submitted my first application a couple days ago, so it's definitely a long process that's starting to come to an end. And yeah, it's a big process. And if I do get the chance, I'd love to play a sport in college. That definitely might be a part of it if I could do that. And also, I'm looking more towards the engineering type major in college. So I'm hoping that it all works out eventually.
What are your other sports that you do? What else do you do on the other seasons?
In the spring, I'm on the baseball team, and then in the winter this year, I'll be the captain of the ski team this year.
Fantastic.
Tell us a little bit. Where does ski come into this? That's kind of an odd, that's an odd three-sport mix right there.
Yeah, well, when I was really young, I always wanted to try basketball because my grandfather, my mom's dad loved basketball. And I always wanted to try basketball, but my parents and my whole family, like my other grandparents have a house in New Hampshire, like a ski house, and so my whole family always goes up there and skis. And so my whole family would always ski together, and my parents wouldn't let me play basketball because it would take away from skiing. And so eventually I just fell in love with skiing. By the time I was like 8 or 10, I loved skiing, and I wouldn't trade it for any other sport. And then when I was about, I think it was 12 to 14, somewhere in there, I was in middle school. Towards the end of middle school, I tried ski racing, and I fell in love with that. And so when I saw the high school had a race team freshman year, I signed up, and I had a blast. I loved it. And so now here I am ski racing.
Nice. So you guys are in a spot now where I'm looking at like the Division II North standings and where you guys fit into the MVC. I mean, you're in a spot now where you could earn a home playoff game. I mean, how are you guys feeling heading into this home stretch?
Well, when we came to that after I think it was the Tewksbury game, when we were 1-3 after we had lost that game, the Coach Dubzinski, he's a great motivational speaker, I think, but he told us that we were at a tipping point in the season and we could either pack it in and go home or we could turn the season around. And I think definitely that was a big thing for me. That every game after that became he says every game after that became the Super Bowl, and every game was a must-win game. And I think it really is that he's definitely 100% right on that. And just remembering from last year how all those home playoff games, just the atmosphere, I think it'd be a huge advantage if we were able to play at home. And I think that definitely would be an amazing atmosphere to play in. And I think definitely this next game against Billerica is definitely a must-win game.
Bill, anything else from you?
No, it's great to hear from you, and you know you sound like a seasoned veteran talking to us, and you're very comfortable, and I think there's going to be big things on the horizon, and you know it's a lot to ask a kid to come and step in a leadership role like that, but it sounds like everything else you've been doing in your life has prepared you for this. So it looks like you're going to be doing pretty well for yourself, Peter. Congrats.
Thank you.
Hey, Peter, we took up some of your Sunday morning here. I mean, in terms of just shout outs and want to thank some people that have helped you, whether it's teachers, family, friends, whoever it might be. Any shout outs you want to give before we let you go?
Oh, well, obviously I definitely want to thank my mom and dad for giving me the opportunity to be here. And my trainer, his name's Robert Fitzgerald. He works with me through the whole off season, and he's a great help in everything I do. Definitely wouldn't be here without him, because some of the hits I take, not even he can prepare me for those. So I'm very glad that I've been able to become a lot stronger than I was. And definitely all my coaches, all of them are huge help. And Coach Casey Walsh was the quarterback coach last year. He wasn't able to come back this year, but he still took the time in the off season to work with me. And definitely another coach, Coach Van Horn from last year, he wasn't able to come back this year, but he was the defensive line coach, and he took the whole offseason and taught me how to play D-end. And obviously Coach Stubzinski's done a great job. All the coaches, Coach Barry, Coach Doolin, Coach Cerullo, all of them do a great job, and I just wanted to thank them. And obviously I forgot to say the new defensive line coach, I love him, Coach Yamin. He was great to play for, and I just wanted to thank all of them for doing such a great job.
That was a veteran shout out list right there, man. You didn't forget anybody, I don't think.
Yeah.
that was awesome.
Tim and I always forget to thank our wives.
Oh, yeah.
And here you are, every single coach, player. So that was great, Peter.
That was legit. Absolutely. Peter, huge thank you for joining us here on MVC Gridiron Weekly. It's been a pleasure to watch you get your chance and really shine. And we'll be watching and rooting for the Scarlet Knights down the stretch here.
Thank you. It's awesome I got the chance to talk here. Thank you.
You made history, man. First video. You did awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks again. So great job out of Peter Radulski. You start to understand how this kid has stepped into the spotlight, and it seems like Schindler's going to be out for a couple more weeks here at least. So he's going to get the start next week, and then probably might even get the first playoff game. Looks like right now that North Andover might be in line for a home playoff game at this point, guys.
Yeah, take care of business next week against Billerica, and that would pretty much lock that one down. I know the 4 seed, Tim, as you've told us, and the 3 seed Masconomet has Newburyport next week, which is probably a winnable game too. I'm not sure points wise.
About all the points, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So that may be enough to overtake them in that case. But that's a rugged D2 North. There are some really good teams there. Reading, Woburn, of course, Lincoln Sudbury at the top. There are some good teams in that. It's kind of like back in the day when you're checking out the seedings and hoping you get a Boston City team in baseball or something like that. This one, you're looking for that softie in the field. I'm not sure who it is either. But it's a power. That is a power group right there. So D2 North is loaded.
What overall thoughts on Radulski, Bill?
No, Tim, I appreciate it because I wanted to take a quick detour. I'm going to be honest. I'm loving the Skype. Tim, you and I have done a lot of other stuff with Methuen and Ranger Nation Radio and us doing the show last year at in studio. But having these coaches and having these kids come on and Skype, it just shows a lot more of their personality that, this isn't like, a jock show. This isn't a football show. This is a combination of, here's a kid who's a senior, hasn't ever really gotten his opportunity. Schmuler is his friend. And I loved hearing how he talked about how he's helping him out and, he's kind of keeping the seat warm. But you could just tell this kid wants to finish the season as a starting quarterback. And those are the things that these young kids are learning. This is all life lessons. And I just love being part of that, having them on. And even, like I said, last week, having the Lawrence coach on and just getting to know them and their personality. There's a lot of good things going on. Coach Chuck is going to be on later on. Just these are good guys, good mentors, and care a ton about these kids.
So a good segue there from Bill in terms of life lessons. We will we will do a life lesson in humility as we talk Central Methuen and bring Bill as much into the conversation as he'd like to be. We will do that right after the break here on MVC Gridiron Weekly, presented by Davila DeFusco Insurance. It's a dream to own your own business, and Val and Susan Davila made that a reality in February 2013. They started with just 2 insurance carriers, but now right-in-place insurance for Progressive, Safeco, Pilgrim, Plymouth Rock, and MAPFRE, just to name a few. Need auto insurance, renters, commercial, or home? I just asked Val and his crew to find me a better auto and home insurance deal, and he connected me with Plymouth Rock, where I'm saving more than 40% over my previous insurance. Now, your results may vary, but give Davila and DeFusco a try. They pride themselves on having lifelong roots in the Merrimack Valley. Put their experience to work for you. Visit them at 225 Broadway or call 978-241-7950 for a free quote, or check them out at daviladefusco.com. Hey, I want to tell you about Jen Hamilton, the realtor for Keller Williams Realty. She's licensed in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, and she's a big supporter of all things local, especially youth sports. She's a big backer for Central Catholic and Methuen athletics, but she's a household name around the Merrimack Valley. Hey, the autumn market is in full swing. If you are thinking of selling, now is the time. Inventory is an all-time low, making this a seller's market. In a seller's market, there's a greater chance for a bidding war on your home. So put Jen Hamilton's 33-plus years of experience to work for you today by calling for a free, no-obligation market analysis of your home. Call Jen at 508-954-7941. A huge supporter of youth athletics. Listen, her record speaks for itself. She's one of the top sellers in the region for Keller Williams Realty. Hamilton is a household word. Call her at 508-954-7941. Back here on MVC Gridiron Weekly, presented by Davila and DeFusco Insurance. Tim Wood, Bill Bryant, Hector Longo, and you here on a Sunday morning. Next up on our docket, we've got the Central Catholic Methuen game. And again, I'm looking at all of there was not one game under 27-point margin yesterday, and this game was no different. A 43-8 win by Central, their homecoming. Central held Methuen to 19 yards in the first quarter en route to building a 23-0 halftime lead. Kevin Higgins, 12 tackles, 3 sacks to lead the Raiders defense. Nick Donadio with a pick six, a 65-yard pick six, and 3 catches, 51 yards. Nate Hebert, one of the guys that got injured earlier in the season, came back in a 41-yard TD reception for the Raiders. Pereira, another great game, 193 passing yards, a TD pass, a TD run. For Methuen, Coleman, 8 catches, 87 yards, and the quarterback we were talking about earlier, JP, Munoz, 11 for 22, 192 passing yards, and a 2-point conversion. So, just in terms of what you saw in person, Bill, yesterday, can the Rangers rebound next? We mentioned it earlier in the show in terms of Lawrence. That's a big game next week against Lawrence for both teams now. A game that probably, when we were looking at the Rangers at 4-0 and the Lancers at 0-4, wasn't looking so big. Now Lawrence has a chance to make the playoffs, and Methuen's they're in, but they've got a chance to potentially jump into a home game at this point.
So Tim, it was a 42-8 win. So no matter what I'm about to say right now, that's in perspective. However, you look at end of the first quarter, it's 3-0. Methuen does a goal line stance on Central and holds them to a field goal. Ton of momentum going into the second quarter. You have a interception that leads to a touchdown. Now it's 10-0 going into the second quarter. Methuen's got to be aggressive, right? They can't sit back, run the clock down, and try to go into halftime. They throw the ball, pick six. Now you're talking 17-0, and that was kind of the killer, to be honest with you. As far as on the sidelines, the excitement in the fans, it was 3-0 into the first quarter. This is a game. The front lines were battling. Romano was playing out of his mind as far as, holding the defense down. The DBs were doing a good job. That pick six hurt. And it kind of just instead of going into halftime feeling like, all right, we got this, we got to make some adjustments, because they were moving the ball offensively, they just weren't able to pick up that drive. A penalty here, a penalty there. We're killing their drives. They weren't able to sustain anything. And then once the pick six happened, and then another touchdown, 23-0 at halftime. That was the game. To me, the second quarter decided that game.
Fellas, shocker of the week, Nick Donadio with another big play. That has been a broken record for that team. Big play at big times. The Donadio kid, man, he has a knack for coming up with the kind of game-breaking play, Bill.
Not only, Hector, does he make the big play, but he also finishes it. And that's what separates him. There's other phenomenal athletes that may have more skill here and there than him. But the thing about Nick is he's almost like a defensive quarterback right there, where he makes the interception and then does something with it. So I think Central's pretty lucky. I think they've got a kind of a leader quarterback on both sides of the ball as far as offensively, and defense. The kid's a stud. You don't get a scholarship to Merrimack for nothing, and he's a stud. Difference maker,
yeah, absolutely.
All right, so Rangers 4-2 now. They've got Lawrence next week. Central 5-1. Finish off with Haverhill before the playoffs. Let's bring in the head coach of the Raiders, Chuck Adamopoulos, here on MVC Gridiron Weekly. Here on the line with us, the victorious head coach of the Central Catholic Raiders, Chuck Adamopoulos, Tim Wood, Bill Bryant, Hector Longo. It's kind of a rite of passage here now, Coach. You kind of come on after the Methuen game. A pretty impressive homecoming for you guys yesterday. Tell us a little bit about the win. But if you'd like to start with just throwing some shade at Bill Bryant, and we'd certainly allow that. You've certainly earned it.
No. Actually, I talked with Bill after the game yesterday, and I expressed I don't want to use the word sympathy because that sounds fatal, but just I was bummed for his son. He's a great competitor, and that's tough when it happens to a senior. To suffer an injury like that. J.J. McSherry for us, same situation, and kids work hard for their senior year. It's a shame when injuries happen like that. It's a tough situation. You can, and for kids, it's happening right there, and it's the most important thing going for them. And in the grand scheme of life, may not be the most important, but at that time, it feels like it is. So I feel for people in that situation, and the parents as well, because that's not easy for parents to have to deal with.
No, and I appreciated that, Coach. And, you know, as much as I give Central a hard time, and Hector is always there to defend, you know, a couple of the coaches from Central have also reached out. And that part of it, regardless of the competition, wins, losses, you know, this is a strong community that does care about each other and does always look to you know, look at the positive ends. And that part of it, it was definitely a class act.
Well, thank you. It's, again, utmost respect for your son and him as a competitor, because he is a hell of a ball player.
All right, Coach. Now tell us how this game played out from your perspective yesterday in terms of how you prepared for Methuen versus what you saw your players execute.
Well, I think the big thing when you play Methuen, the coaches that run the scout team hate that week the most of all, because they run more shifts and more motion and more things like that than any other team that we'll see during the season. So there's a lot of preparation with that, just making sure that you line up, you know, properly and things like that. And I thought our kids did a pretty good job with that. One thing that one of the reasons I think we've been successful this season in general, though, is we've been winning the turnover battle right through. You know, we had 3 interceptions in the first half yesterday. We played Andover a couple weeks ago. We had 3 picks. We had a couple of turnovers against Lowell. And I think any time, especially in high school football, you can intercept the ball 3 times. It's a major recipe for having a successful game. And so, again, like I said this to our coach, our master's coach, all yelled at me about jinxing ourselves, but we've done a turnover. I have to go back and look at what it is, but we're probably about plus 17 through 6 games, and that's going to help you out a lot when you're on the right side of that number.
Chuck, if you looked at the schedule yesterday or over the weekend, it seemed like all the teams that you thought might have been the team to beat in the game kind of took care of business. You guys were one of them, but if you look down the list, the teams that you thought were going to win really just did what they had to do. Is that a product of week 7 here, week 6, teams getting ready for what is the playoff run?
Yeah, I think teams at this point now have started to gel into what they are. And again, you get thrown curveballs with injuries and things like that. But typically at this point, teams are starting to mature into what you hope is a near finished product. It's you're never as good as you think you look on film. And I was just watching ours, and there's some stuff that will be brought up tomorrow that we have to get better at. But yeah, I think you start to reach this point, things have started to play themselves out. And what happens too is you get to look at teams now more on film, where even ourselves early, I know we had blemishes that maybe teams don't see right away because they haven't. So at least you get a chance to try to get better in the areas where you are weak. So we are kind of at that point of the season.
Talking to Coach Chuck Adamopoulos from Central Catholic here on MVC Gridiron Weekly. Coach, tell us just in terms of what you saw from the defense specifically yesterday. You weren't sure what you were preparing for, but the defense, we had the pick 6 video up on the screen while you were talking about turnovers. The defense just has really, as much as you've had your offensive stars like Pereira and Donadio and the Finnerins, and your defense has just absolutely set the tone in the last 4 games here.
We've got a really good play from our 3 down linemen. Brendan Cesario at nose guard. Jermaine Wiggins, who was an outside linebacker last year, and moving to DC this year. And Don Petty, who did play DC last year, started out the year. We moved him to outside linebacker where he was doing a good job. And we felt we needed him back at DC. He and Jermaine are both athletic kids, and they move really well and can drive offensive linemen crazy. Those 3 kids have really, I think, done a really good job for our defense. And I feel like Kevin Higgins, who wasn't a starter till either game 2 or game 3, played really well yesterday. And you need kids like that to be able to step in and do the job. He's kind of a lunch-pail kid. He was a special teams player last year, but get after it in the weight room, never miss the morning session, and we do our winter thing, and on summer in the morning, and has really worked hard to get a shot to play. And I thought he played his best game yesterday. And so we got some kids, do things like that. Kansas, the Donadio, those kids, they showed it last year. But some other kids are stepping up and doing a good job. I mean, the kids are running to the ball. The kids are flying to the ball and playing hard from whistle to whistle, and that's a big part of playing defense too. Is just kids playing right to the end of the whistle and getting to places. So I'm happy with we got to get better still and some stuff, but we've improved from the first game. At 42 points we gave up to Springfield throws off the defensive average, but if you look at our points against the MVC game, we've been playing pretty good defense there.
Coach, end of the first quarter was 3-0. How important was that second quarter as far as, putting away Methuen as opposed to giving them that confidence to feel like, hey, this is a battle and, we're going back and forth? Because when you talk about your defense, there was the interception and there was a couple of late scores going in halftime. How big was that second quarter?
No, it was big because, Methuen had come up big where they stopped us and made us kick a field goal. We had a nice drive to start the game. Their kids made a really nice play to stop us. We were like third and about a half a yard and knocked us like a 3-yard loss. Ended up taking the field goal there. And, so 3-zip going in the second quarter. And they were doing some good things. They ran the ball okay against us and were moving the ball first. So it was big that we came right out the second quarter, had a nice drive, and then Donadio, again, you're talking about the effect of a turnover. It's still only a 10-0 game at that point. And I have to look. I think they were around midfield, so they had good field position, and he intercepts the ball, runs it back, and it totally changed the whole, complexion of the game at that point.
Yeah, they were right over midfield at that point. As I put that back up on the screen now. Go ahead, Bill. Sorry.
Yeah, no. It definitely you definitely see the steam let out. Plus, I wanted the description of the field goal because I know that's a big part of Hector's love here. So,
I don't go anything inside of 21 is just a common kick though, Bill. Anything inside of 25, that was just a 21-yarder. But
not
Chuck,
for Steven Gutskowski.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
Chuck,
I'll tell you this: the days of we were just happy because you have a kid kick extra points. Now everyone's been kicking who can hit field goals for 35 yards. And
You got it.
It's becoming more common to have quality kickers now in high school. I'm old enough, doing wrong. If you had a kid who could consistently kick extra points, you thought you had a gem. So
that straight on kick, Chuck, that flops right over the bar. That's how old I am. When we had a kid that just flop it right over the bar.
Yep.
With the square toe and everything else. But God, I feel old.
If we could get the four of us on like when we say 20 yards is a gimme, I would say let's get the four of us over at Lawrence and see which one of us, if any of us, can hit that 20-yarder.
We can't even get Hector to come to a production breakfast. How are we going to get him to kick field goals?
That's because I'm waiting for Chuck to take me to the Groveland Diner one of these mornings. But anyways, Chuck, what about your junior class? I only ask this question because you see those guys that I was very familiar with over coming up to the Masco junior high ranks. How good is your junior class, and who's playing well in that class right now besides Jermaine?
The junior class, one kid that's really turned into, I think, an outstanding lineman. And his nickname is Uwe because I wish if I had a roster in front of you, it's Osayiman, and then his last name is got about 8,000 letters in it. Omiyemen. I'm butchering it. That's why he goes by Uwe. He's our right guard. He started as a sophomore last year, and he has really turned into a very powerful, athletic lineman. He's a very good football player. He's a very good student. He's played really well for us. Excuse me. Kid named Tommy Casey, an inside linebacker, has stepped in and done a solid job there because that was a big hole for us. Losing Laywe, Baez from last year's team. Mark Ciccarelli at receiver and corner has done a nice job. Dom Trito at the other corner is a junior that's played well. Nick Mazzi is an outstanding kicker for us. Jack Sullivan at tackle, and Anthony Mears. Those two guys they alternated yesterday at offensive tackle, and have done a solid job for us. So, those guys. It's not a deep group, but the kids that have been playing have done a nice job for us.
Anything else, guys, before we let Coach A go? Bill?
Have any Breeders' Cup picks, Chuck?
Hector, that when football starts, I have to go underground thoroughbred. There's an athletic director from Tewksbury that always bugs me trying to give me tips, and but I put it away. I have to put it away until the first Friday after Thanksgiving.
All right.
If the mosquitoes would cooperate, we go back to. Any bit of sanity, social life for football coaches.
Can you give us any insight there, Coach? That as of right now, all the games are on the schedule for Friday. Can you give us any insight in terms of what you're hearing?
I was talking to Ernie today, and it doesn't look like it's going to be still in frost this week. And as cold as it was this morning, I guess it's not enough to do the job. So I have a feeling we're going to be playing Saturday again next week.
What time would you guys play if it's Saturday? 2:00?
1:30.
1:30. Yeah, no, I mean
the old traditional time before they were light.
Who knew we were going to be rooting for frost, right? I mean, that's like we want to hold on. We want to hold on to fall here, but we're all rooting for frost right now.
Well, it makes a long grind when you're doing the Saturday. And I know we used to do this, and when I was a player in the 70s, and I'm coaching. It's my 38th year of high school football, and the first part of my career was everyone played Saturdays. And that's what you did. You get so used to Friday nights, and it's just a better thing. People can actually have a little bit of time, and being selfish as a coach, because we do so much work on Sundays, get ready for the next week. But I was talking to Terry Donovan yesterday, one of the Stewart assistants before the game. His son's playing college football at Hudson, and he hasn't been able to go up there because he's playing Saturdays. And I'm thinking EJ Perry, his son, is down there starting at Brown, and he's playing every Saturday. And I usually have been to 4 college games by now, watching some of our kids playing, and I think I went to 1 at the beginning of the season. And so it's just you just miss out having flexibility on things you could do, and I think people just like Friday nights going in general. Because if that game was last night, there was a decent crowd yesterday, but if that was on Friday night, it probably would have been 3 times the crowd that we had yesterday.
Absolutely agree with that, Coach. Absolutely agree with you.
The gate, the atmosphere. It's. I mean that just looking at the video from yesterday. That was probably correct me if I'm wrong here. That's probably the first game that felt like as close to a Friday as. And like you said, you'd still have three times the crowd there on Friday, even with that.
I am going to give a plug though. Our students, the Red Sea group, and actually I found them after the game. They've been really good about getting all these Saturday games, and we've had a solid core of students that have been going to the games and stuff. So I do applaud them for that. But I do think you lose some of the other crowds. That was our homecoming. It was a so-so crowd. I was scouting the Methuen the week before, and though you attest this, that wasn't as typical if it was a Friday night what the crowd would have been for their homecoming. Although I did enjoy the halftime show, I'll tell you that.
You didn't get in one of the bubbles, huh? I mean, there was like 24 of them.
They have to cut open one of those bubbles to fit me into it. So.
Anything else from you, Hector?
I'm all good.
All right, Coach. I know Sundays, especially as you say with the Saturdays now, Sundays have become even more sacred. So I appreciate you making the time for us here, and good luck to the Raiders next week against Haverhill, and we'll be watching as we head into the playoffs here.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, and you guys do a great job.
All right, thanks, Coach.
See you guys.
All right, see ya.
All right, big thanks to Coach A for getting on the line with us on a Sunday morning. All right, gentlemen.
Tim, one more
Yeah.
quick note here. Hector was talking about, the old prom date, Radulski kid, and I want to add to, obviously you got the Methuen banner here, but Kareem Coleman is a kid who's been an athlete all year, and with Bryant going down and them depth-wise at quarterback, Kareem's somebody that, once again, the week before in Andover, started finishing that game, gave 100%. He's a kid that his stock is rising. If I'm a college coach that's looking at an athlete, a kid that can jump up, catch the ball, run the ball, pretty much play both sides of the ball, he's a kid that I think is going to get a lot of looks after the season.
All right, so now I've taken my fair share of lumps on the Josh Ramos stuff. This is the second soliloquy from Bill this week on Coleman, the fourth in 3 shows. So can we now say that Bill is now to the level of me with Ramos with Coleman, Hector?
Am I the only objective observer left in this world?
Yeah,
Honest to God, you guys get in these campaigns. It's amazing.
It is election season. Yeah, it is. It is. All right. So we'll take a break here. It's all love, Bill. We know it's all love. We'll take a break here. We will come back and get through the rest of the games. Wrap this show up for this week. Take a look at the playoff pictures. Give you your noms for MVP again. We'll do that after the break here on MVC Gridiron Weekly, presented by Davila and DeFusco Insurance. It's a dream to own your own business, and Val and Susan Davila made that a reality in February 2013. They started with just 2 insurance carriers, but now right-in-place insurance for Progressive, Safeco, Pilgrim, Plymouth Rock, and MAPFRE, just to name a few. Need auto insurance, renters, commercial, or home? I just asked Val and his crew to find me a better auto and home insurance deal, and he connected me with Plymouth Rock, where I'm saving more than 40% over my previous insurance. Now, your results may vary, but give Davila and DeFusco a try. They pride themselves on having lifelong roots in the Merrimack Valley. Put their experience to work for you. Visit them at 225 Broadway or call 978-241-7950 for a free quote, or check them out at daviladefusco.com. If you're looking for the freshest food with the fastest service in the valley, look no further than Country Kitchen. Country Kitchen has been the breakfast spot of choice for Methuenites for more than 4 decades. Lynn, her son Eric, and the entire team at Country Kitchen continue to serve breakfast favorites with the friendliest service around. Eric's lunch specialties change daily, anything from American chop suey to meatloaf, chicken pot pie, local faves like chicken barbs, to a Friday seafood menu that features haddock fish and chips that, trust me folks, it is the best in the Merrimack Valley, if not all of New England. Whether you're a regular or a first-time guest, the crew at Country Kitchen can't wait to see you. Come check them out today. They are in the heart of downtown, 18 Hampshire Street in Methuen. Check them out online on Facebook at The Country Kitchen on Facebook. The fastest service in the valley. Country Kitchen, a proud supporter of Ranger Nation Radio and the sponsor of the Methuen Rangers football report on MVC Gridiron Weekly. All right, gentlemen, the final segment here on MVC Gridiron Weekly. Tim Wood, Bill Bryant, and Hector Longo. we'll go through the rest of the games on the schedule here. Don't want to give short shrift to anybody, but at the same time, a lot of blowouts. So we'll start with Malden, Billerica against Malden Catholic. Started out on the first play, Colby Cyrus with an interception on the first play. Nick Gualdieri, 2 TD runs, including a 38-yard TD run on the second play of the game. Nolan Houlihan, a 22-yard TD pass. Brian Hamilton, 17 carries, 143 yards, 2 TD runs. Once again, huge for the Indians. And Sean Rana, 5 successful PAT kicks. Nate Young, a TD reception and a fumble recovery on defense. Quick thoughts here just on Billerica, Bill?
Yeah, no, Nate Young, 2 interceptions, a fumble recovery, and a TD catch.
Okay.
My insiders in Billerica. So he's a kid, Tim, that I think was really on the bubble as far as that defensive player, not team MVP, but individual defensive MVP. So he's a kid right on the cusp. And when it came down to it, Hamilton kind of second big game. The running attack right now for Billerica, has been huge. It's when you have a senior quarterback like Nolan who can throw the ball like that, but it's not matching up with them getting wins. Now all of a sudden they're running the ball the way they are, and that's a big win for them. And this is it. To me, this next game for them against North Andover is their season as far as what they're going to be able to do in the playoffs. What do you think, Hector?
Look, if you find something at this part of the year, you have to go with it. You want to be able to unleash the Houlihan kid, and at some point they're going to have to throw the football and want to throw the football. But right now, if you're running it, run it. Let's go. It's working. Also, you got to remember that's a struggling Malden Catholic program too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, so next up, Lawrence and Lowell. We mentioned them earlier in the show. 28-6, the closest game of the day. I mentioned I forgot this game in terms of point margin. 22-point margin here. Brendan Ty, 3 rushing touchdowns. It was taking direct shotgun snaps for the Red Raiders with Najee Neal hurt, so they switched up their offense a little bit. Kevin Irazari, 9 carries, 101 yards, and a strong defensive effort for Lowell. Jacob Rivers, a 61-yard punt return TD that was kind of the backbreaker in that game. Red Raiders, 4 sacks against the Lancers on senior night and again for Lowell. George Dristelarius, a strong night on defense and punting, including pinning the Lancers at the 1-yard line in the fourth quarter. For Lawrence, always strong, Jacob Tamayo, 122 pass yards, 83 rush yards, and a TD pass to Manny Lara, who himself had 117 receiving yards. So let's start with you, Hector, here. What do you make of Lowell heading into the playoff push here?
All right. First off, Bill, the more I think about this should scare the heck out of you, this result, because Lawrence is going to rebound and be a lot more focused than they were this week. So this, for everyone in Methuen, this result should scare the daylights out of you right now. Lowell, again, shorthanded, using Ty at the quarterback spot, taking snaps and running, I don't know, is it single wing or is it wildcat or whatever it's called these days? I wonder how, when they see the power clubs, where they stand. This is D1 North. Do you want to head to a Central Catholic or Everett, or St. John's in the opening round? That's something you're looking to avoid. So it's a rugged go there.
Without a doubt. It's you've got Lowell right now sitting in the 7th spot, matched up against St. John's Prep, but still some movement that could happen there, with
right.
With Lawrence moving in, with Lowell potentially could jump in even into the 6th spot at this point. I think they're still within a point margin where they could do that, but it's. I would agree in terms of just Lowell and Methuen next week, and Lowell being especially hungry. It's just a matter of which teams you're going to see, which versions of these teams we're going to see next week in that matchup.
And who's healthy?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah, and this is no knock on Andover or Methuen. Right now we're in the 4 and 5, but that's where you want to be to have a chance to win in the opening round.
Yep.
You don't want to stare at Central St. John's or Everett.
Nope.
In the one which would be the 6, 7, or 8 guys. So there's a lot of people looking for that 4-5 spot in the North.
All right, so Tewksbury with a 34-6 win over Chelmsford, 402 total yards of offense, 307 rushing yards for the Redmen, playing second week without Shane Aylward. Tyler Keogh, two TD runs, 5 PAT kicks, one of our MVP picks for this week. Kalu Alu, 97 rushing yards. Kyle Dorigo, 61 rushing yards, a 4-yard TD run. Ryan Remetta, a 15-yard fade pass TD to Nolan Timmons to end the first half, and Danny Fleming with a 1-yard TD run. Guys, the Redmen are rolling at the right time.
I would say Remetta being a little bit of stability in a time where you're without your best player in Shane Aylward has been huge for that football team. Obviously, they're a program like we've talked about in the past, but when your quarterback can just manage and do things well enough without making big mistakes, that's going to make life a little bit easier for your football team. And so give a shout out to Remetta for we haven't heard any oh my God, turned the ball over 3. He's handling the game and doing all the little things to keep that team going while Shane tries to get healthy. And other guys are stepping up around him. You mentioned the Keogh boy, a couple of TDs this week. They have guys stepping into different spots. But it starts with the quarterback, I think, and that though to keep things kind of stable.
I hate how the term game manager became a negative connotation to a quarterback. If you've got a quarterback who's not turning over the ball and is doing enough to get the offense to get the scoreboard in their favor, how's that a wrong thing, Bill?
It's not, Tim, and I'll be honest with you. I think people that don't understand what that means don't really know the game of football. I think it's never really been lost on me or the fans / coaches that I talk to. I think it makes or breaks your offense. If you can control the ball and get first downs, keep your defense off the field. There you go. Hector, it was like you were reading my mind as far as what you were describing for Tewksbury, and this kid has been a stud athlete. Since coming up through Pop Warner, and they knew who he was. But can you handle the big game? And I think the Alwood and the coaching staff has really brought this kid along in a way to say, listen, you don't have to make the big play. Just make the play. And I think that's where he is. And with Alwood being out, his skill set and his ability to make a better play has been growing, which is going to make them very dangerous going into the playoffs.
And they've got the other thing is they've just got with Aylward being out, never a good thing to have your key guy out. But, I mean, with Aylward being out, you have guys that are getting more touches and getting more chances to be in the spotlight. And to me, that's only a good thing. I mean, especially when you have a selfless guy like Aylward that's not going to, be complaining about sharing the ball once he comes back. I think it's just a positive for the Redmen right now.
And when you say key guy, this is a kid who's got kickoff returns for touchdowns, fumble recoveries, picks, passes, throws, running the ball. I mean, this kid is all over the field. So to lose that level of a player and be this dominant, because Chelmsford, we keep talking about it. They got a long way to go, but they battled North Andover right to the end. They're in there. They have some talent. They're well coached. That was a dominating win by Tewksbury.
All right, so let's talk one last game, 42-7, Andover over Haverhill. Andover defense allowed 68 yards on the Hillies' first drive, then 80 yards the rest of the game. Scotty Brown, the freshman quarterback, one of our MVP picks this week, 5 for 5 passing, 153 yards, 3 TD passes, and then 5 rushes for 40 yards. Jofi Arias, a 32-yard TD reception from Victor Harrington. Josh Ramos continues to do his thing. 16 rushes, 106 yards, 2 TD runs. Jackson McCarthy, a 26-yard TD catch. And then Kelvin Devia, 3 catches, 68 yards, and a 50-yard TD catch for Andover. So in terms of where Andover's at, guys, Hector, speak to me a little bit about the rising tide of the Golden Warriors here.
Nah, I'm not too sure, but I'm pretty sure that 5 of 5 with 3 TDs might consist of a perfect QB passer rating.
Yes. Yes.
Obviously, the Brown kid is just he's kind of added just this incredible dynamic with this team. You know, that's an offense where if you deliver the football, there are guys in open space. That's what they do. They get the ball into open space, and guys can make plays, and they're kind of wide open. And if it's working, and you spread the field, and then you send that kid, I forget his name because I've never heard it before, the running back kid. Ramos. That's his name.
Ramos, yeah.
Yeah. I've never heard his name here on this show before. But
it's the tattoo on Tim's bicep.
you spread the field, you get him the football, and all of a sudden, you know, it's pretty unstoppable. So, again, if they can hold on to the 4 seed, and now you're looking at a rematch with the Central Catholic or another game with the St. John's, depending on how things shake out. If they can win that first one, things will be decided up front, I think, in the playoffs wise. But right now, they're doing a nice job just outscoring people right now.
And we didn't even mention Slayton in any of this, Bill. But I mean, Slayton's a beast as well. So I mean, and their defense just overall. Hector, you've made the point a couple weeks here. Just, but in terms of just this defense, if Andover keeps playing this defense, they're going to be a sneaky good playoff pick here.
Yeah, look, their goal is simple. Can they jump into that top group with Central, the teams that have dominated, Central, Everett, St. John's, those teams have dominated Division I North. Can they jump into that mix? I think that they've looked to do that. They've tried. They've been close in past years. You know, when EJ was there, young EJ was there, they've come close. But, you know, that's what their goal is, get into that top group of Division I North Elite.
And I know we had a couple of weeks where I was really confused by the Harrington-Brown thing, and after seeing Brown play, my questions have been answered, and now Brown's got several weeks of being the man. Harrington's still coming in here or there, but Brown's getting in the majority of the snaps. So I think when they lost to Central, it was what Coach A said. It was a couple of turnovers, and kid didn't have the reps. Now you're talking, you got multiple games against some good MVC teams. It may be a difference, and maybe they are finding their groove on defense and can hang with those higher tier teams.
All right, so we take a look at the standings here. Central Catholic, it is they've got to win out. They've got to finish it off. Technically in conference, Andover has a shot at 4-1, but Central wins against Haverhill and they take the MVC large. Tewksbury is it's pretty much a lock, but if there's a bunch of things that would have to happen for Bill Ricca to have a chance at it, but it's Tewksbury's to lose at this point in the MVC. In terms of let's see the schedule. Actually, let's just take a quick look at the Division I North standings here. We've been talking about it. Central's 1, Andover's 4 right now. Methuen is about 3/10 of a point behind Andover at this point. So Methuen wins, Andover loses, and Methuen would jump in and get a home playoff game. Lowell is looking pretty solid for a 7 seed, but again, no happy prize in potentially getting St. John's or Central Catholic. And then you've got Lawrence, as I said. Lawrence is in the 9 spot with 1 win, but if they beat Methuen, they're going to get a lot of points out of that, and they could potentially jump into the 8 spot.
Look, it's not a tough spot. It's not an easy spot to be that 8 spot, but the difference between making those playoffs and not making those playoffs for a program is gigantic. Okay, you know, especially a program like a Lawrence or Lowell, where they're trying to build a foundation. Making the playoffs there is huge. Yeah, it means a loss, but you know, most likely a loss in the first round. You're a huge underdog, but that's a huge. It's a big difference making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. I know that sounds obvious, but it's bigger than I mean.
Especially in this setup with how the games play out and you know the randomness of the of the matchups for sure.
Sure.
So Division II, North Andover, we mentioned North Andover's in the driver's seat to have a home playoff game right now. They win next week. They will get a home playoff game. Only question is if they move up to 3 potentially with a win. In Division III, in terms of MVC teams, Tewksbury is in position 3 in the 3 seed behind Danvers and Concord Carlisle. Going to be tough to jump into the 2 seed. They probably, I won't say locked into the 3 seed, but Tewksbury is if they win out, they're looking at a 3 seed. Billerica is on the bubble right now, fighting it out with Belmont and Beverly in the 7, 8, 9 spot. So Billerica with a big game against North Andover. Billerica wins that, obviously they're in. They may even get into a 7 spot. So, as you mentioned, Bill, the season coming up for the Indians here.
No, I think there's a few games this coming week. I think for Lowell, this is a playoff game for them. They beat Andover and they kind of changed their rankings a little bit. And, that is a big test for them. I think the same thing for Billerica as well, Tim. I think you're right. I think as much as things are playing out, I think some of the haves and have-nots that really need to have a big week. Like I said, Methuen could be within that, 4 or 5 spot if they beat Lawrence. But, the way they're playing right now, they need to really step up and have a big week.
And as we mentioned, Drake right now in the 8th spot in Division 4. And as we look at the schedule right now, and again, these games right now are scheduled for Friday, October 25th, all at 7 p.m. Again, just check us on Twitter throughout the week. We will have the updated schedule. You heard Coach A talk about how Central, it's all going to be about if we get a hard frost, and it's not looking like that, just looking at the forecast right now. So you're probably going to see all these games and asterisks move to Saturday, which is Lowell at Andover, Haverhill at Central Catholic, Billerica at North Andover, and Lawrence at Methuen, probably all moving to Saturday at this point. They haven't moved officially yet, so I just put them on for Friday on showing you guys the schedule. But we've talked about it, guys. I don't think we need to belabor this in terms of this last week. There are a lot of key matchups, and as a fan, honestly, this is what you want to see in the final week of the MVC schedule. You want to see all these games truly matter.
Absolutely.
No, you're right. Hector, did you want to give the fans an understanding of what a hard frost is, or are you okay?
I thought a hard frost was what I saw when I walked the dog at 5 a.m. Perhaps it's me, but, I saw my lawn look pretty hard frosty. But,
yeah,
I'll call Al Caprilli in for more on that one.
Always good when we get an Al Caprillion reference in. All right, so there's next week's schedule. As we mentioned, your Week 6 nominees: Scott Brown from Andover, Kevin Higgins from Central Catholic, Tyler Keel from Tewksbury, Brian Hamilton from Billerica. Get on to Twitter before Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. At MVC Gridiron Week and get out the fan vote. The fan vote, as we mentioned, 25% of the total vote. You guys want to put? You guys ready at this point to put anything out there in terms of?
I'm putting a challenge out. I'm putting a challenge out to Billerica. I know you're pissed off the first time Hamilton went through and a little confusion. I think Hector not being there that week really kind of threw the whole thing into a tailspin. He's here this week.
The bus.
How do I get the blame?
There's 3 votes.
Bill of the bus.
There's 3 votes there. I'm putting my money back on Hamilton. I think the kid has had some consistency over the year. I know it was Malden Catholic, but I think the kid definitely deserves a win this week.
Well, since Tim had the guts not to name the entire Tewksbury coaching staff, team, band, fans, and concession workers as the nominee this week, I'm going with Tyler Keogh simply because that program just keeps winning, and he stepped in and did the job here this week on a program hurting a little bit. I'm giving Tyler Keogh the nod this week.
So without Tim saying anything, technically there's a very good chance that the voters could decide this
Yeah,
week.
the fan vote's going to decide it, absolutely, because I'm probably –
I think if you hold off and don't say anything and your vote is the last vote, it's kind of like the swing vote there.
I will just here's what I will say, Bill. I'm going with the fan vote this week because all four of these guys are worthy. So as you said, with that, the fans are probably going to decide the vote this week. So I'll go with the fan vote. If we're all splitting up the vote here, I will go with the fan vote. So your vote this week matters more than ever. So get out and vote at MVC Gridiron Weekly MVC Gridiron Week on Twitter before midnight, 11:59 on Tuesday, and then just a couple other things to throw at you. We've mentioned the podcasts. The podcast for this will be up shortly after we're done today. Spotify, Radio Public, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, TuneIn, and Stitcher. Also, and our home base on Podbean. So you've got a lot of different options for the podcast. Bill, have you learned what a podcast is yet?
No, I haven't. I'm waiting for the 12-hour over the internet course that I'm taking.
Fair enough. All right, and then just a reminder: watch and listen.
The detective's bleeding from his eyeballs right now.
Podcast.
Belichick talk about snap face there when he did that pod scheme or stitch face or whatever it was. What are you talking about, Tim?
Podcast.
I need a lesson too, Bill. Get me that website. Let me know.
At least we're not on Snapchat yet. I'm holding out. We're not going on Snapchat. Watch and listen each week, live Sunday mornings, all week on demand. As we said, on Twitter at MVC Gridiron Week, on Facebook and Instagram at MVC Gridiron Weekly, on YouTube on the Loop Weekly TV channel. Gentlemen, final thoughts for this week before we say goodbye and let you off to your Sundays. Hector, we'll start with you.
Bring on the hot frost. I want my Friday nights back.
I know. It seems like we're going to get them for the playoffs at least, but it really has been a different dynamic, and it's. I know it's hurt the Gates dramatically, and that as much as a fan I feel for it, I feel for all the athletic departments that make so much of their money that gets distributed back into the athletic department through these gates.
And that's why having a strong boosters that raises money is key. But the ripple effect, the coaches not spending time with their families on Saturdays because a lot of time on Sunday is taken up. I don't think I quite understood how much of an impact losing Friday nights is in so many different facets. So I agree. Let's get that.
I mean, you mentioned where have I been on the Methuen games, Bill? Like I've had to be, I hate to say it this way, but I mean, like I'm a parent of a 10-year-old soccer guy that all those games were scheduled on Saturdays before Triple E, came in and threw an elbow off the top rope here, So
no, I know, and just listening to the coaches talking about not being able to see some of their alumni playing college games.
Yeah,
like it goes so deep as far as
things like we hear, like Jason Sims, the PA guy at Methuen, not even being able to do it because of Saturday commitments. So it's a whole different dynamic. So hey, Hector, one last thing. Shout out to you in terms of Masco and is it the Northeastern Conference?
Northeastern Conference, bring it on.
Yeah.
So much for my quality road trips to Ipswich and Pawtucket and all 20 minutes away. Now I'm going to be heading to Salem and Lynn and Marblehead and Swampscott. You guys may never see me again.
Yeah. We'll have to where in the world is Hector Longo? We'll have to set him up on an RV or something. So
huge step up in competition, though.
Yeah.
Huge step up in competition. We're excited. A lot of coaches at the school are excited, so we're ready to,
It's good to see a school adding more competition as opposed to staying level or trying to drop down, which happens as well. So that, to me, that's a huge shout out to Masco and improving their quality of athletics and the competition.
Circling back real quick, the MVC Small was a better fit for us but those road trips were just a deciding factor. I really think we should, like, we belong with the MVC Small. NASCAR does.
Yeah.
Size-wise, competition-wise, in a lot of sports, but the travel thinking to travel from Boxford to Drake and Boxford to Chelmsford was just a little too much.
Yeah.
So we ended up in the NEC, and we're excited.
All right, folks, that is the show for this week. Again, a huge shout-out to Peter Radulski, to Chuck Adamopoulos for joining us on the interviews this week, to all the folks that helped us with video this week, Jen Silva and all the video contributors. Please keep them coming, folks. It just makes the show so much better, and keeps our ugly mugs off of the screen as much as possible. So, and listen, watch the show all week. Please take a look at our sponsors: Davila DeFusco Insurance, AFC Urgent Care, Jen Hamilton, Country Kitchen in Methuen. You want to sponsor your town segment? Shout me out, Tim at MethuenToday.com, or hit me up on Twitter, and we will listen. We'll make it happen. And that is it for now.
All right, Bill Ricker, get out and vote.
There you go. Absolutely, get out and vote, Bill Ricker. And listen.
We gotta knock Hector off this.
So far, Central is getting out the vote too for Mr. Higgins. So we will see how that shakes out. Hey, have a great week, everybody. A weird Sunday on the football front. Monday Night Football with the Pats and Jets. A trap game. Any predictions, real quick, from you guys on Pats Jets?
Jets.
24-17 Pats. And
Did
hey,
you say
Hector,
that? Are you saying that seriously, Hector?
I like the Jets this week.
I mean, I don't mean to be the nervous Nelly here, but I mean the Jets, what they did against the Cowboys, and having Darnold back, having Bell getting in more and more every week, and this might be the week the undefeated ends for the Patriots.
24-17 Pats. And Hector, I just got an email forwarded to me from Russia. Have you been interfering with the Twitter votes? Because every time you pick a player, their Twitter spikes up by like 40%. So
there's no quid pro quo here.
I'm gonna be looking into
no
that.
quid pro quo. Yeah, all right.
All right, hey, I gotta go have some Papa on a game. So peace out, gentlemen. Have a good week.
We'll talk to you next week here on MVC Gridiron Weekly, presented by Davila and DeFusco Insurance. Have a great week, everybody.